Welcome to the Language of Excellence podcast. My name is Nick Nighbor. I want to give this gentleman a proper introduction because he has helped so many different people. So his name is Drewbie Wilson. Drewbie Wilson is a loving husband and father who pushes himself to live in excellence. Did you get that? The name of the podcast is Language of Excellence, and that he wants to live in excellence so he can set an example for around those around him. At one point, he weighed over 300 pounds before getting focused on his health and losing more than 100 pounds. Maybe we'll be talking a little bit about that. He's an action taker with his finger on the pulse who focuses on service to others above all else, leading him to produce more than 7 figures in revenue, no matter what industry he has worked in. Not one to turn away from a challenge. Drewbie looks to get out of his comfort zone as much as possible. From starting in tech support in a software startup to the VP of a multi-million-dollar consulting company, he understands what it means to start at the bottom, serve others, and move his way to the top. A servant first, operating first with utmost integrity and humility, but not afraid to tell it like it is. Confidence and empathy are his superpowers. By going all in every area of his life, he strives to pursue, to inspire success, and helps them become the most elite versions of themselves. I'm so excited to bring this gentleman on. So again, this is Drewbie Wilson. Let's get him on the screen. Welcome to the show, Drewbie. How you doing?
What's up, Nick, man? I'm doing wonderful, brother. I really appreciate you taking the time to say all those nice things about me. I'm just a guy that likes having good times and helping other people do the same, and I'm just grateful to be here with you, brother.
Awesome. So now you're down in the Texas area, so when you look out your window, you don't see snow.
No, thankfully we are snow-free at the moment. I think we're clear of that. We've had a couple of snowstorms and ice storms the last couple of years. Like, last year we had the Snowmageddon, which I feel I was sold a false bill of goods. I heard Texas was hot, which it is, but I did not know we would also get snow and ice. So I'm glad to know that there's nothing out there right now, man.
Now, you're not originally from Texas, are you?
No. So my wife and I and my son, we moved to Texas about 3 years ago now, coming up on 3 years. Right after, about 6 months after I'd gotten started with this company, we decided to put our home on the market, sell everything we know, move away from everything we love, and start over here in good old Dallas, Texas. And it's probably one of the best moves we've ever made, man. It's awesome.
And the summers are hot. I did door-to-door sales in Huntsville, Texas, which is, I think, like an hour or two north of Houston. And my summer finished down in Galveston on the coast, but I had never experienced, I spent a little bit of time in the desert in the military, but Texas is hot. So I'm looking out my window and we had probably an inch of snow fall last night, and it's almost April. What is up with that? I ask myself every time it snows, why do we live here? So, but anyways, let's go ahead and get started. So we have a very large background in sales. So to get this, just to get the show started, tell us a little bit about your start in sales, Drewbie.
Yeah, man. So I've been in sales since I was a kid. I grew up hustling all kinds of different shit in school, ended up selling reefer for a while. And then, like all kids, I realized that's a quick trip into trouble if you don't get yourself out of it. And, I ended up going into, like I said, I'd always hustled and bartered. I kind of grew up playing video games. So at one point I used to play games and sell in-game items and currency on eBay and stuff. So I've just been in that world forever. When I really started recognizing it as my career, I had been working third shift as a nuclear pharmacy technician, and I got real fat. As I said, I used to weigh about 300 pounds at some point. And so got out of that position, ended up going to work for a guy who owned a cigar and tobacco shop. Basically, I was bouncing at night in his clubs, and then daytime needed some hours. So he's like, yeah, you can go sell, tobacco for me. Got into that. Within a few months, got promoted from a retail sales clerk to the manager of the operation. We went from doing $300,000 in a year to over $500,000. We got best shop in Toledo, and really, from there, it just kind of springboarded. I went from cigars and tobacco to furniture, and from furniture to insurance, from insurance to marketing to consulting to, I've sold just about everything these days. I got all kinds of hustles going on, but it really all came back to every position and opportunity that I've been offered, especially in the sales world. I came in with a mentality of, all right, I don't really know anything about this product or service, but how am I going to make sure that I understand what the client's needs are and do my best to serve them to solve that problem. Because that's really all sales is, hey, can you be empathetic and understand what problem the client's facing? And then be confident in your ability to deliver a solution to that problem. And if not you, then who do you know that does have that solution so that you can hand that off to them?
So when you talk about empathy and understanding what people need, I mean, there's a couple different, the statement, walk in their shoes, see the problems that they have. Is that something that you feel that you've trained yourself to do? Was that maybe like a natural thing? Tell us a little bit about being able to empathize with your clients, because there's lots of different products that you've sold.
Yeah, I think, I've always had a bit of empathy, right? I might look like a tough guy. I'm 6'2", muscular, covered in tattoos, but I'm really just a big teddy bear. But really it's a combination, right? It's something that I had a little bit naturally. And I think everyone has empathy naturally, but
Mhm.
it is a skill that you can develop. And it comes back to your ability to ask good questions and be willing to listen, right? We have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. So we should be listening to what our clients are saying and then strategically asking questions that help bring out the truth of what's going on. Because if anybody is listening and they've been in sales, there's always like 2 or 3 surface level things that people will put out there, right? We call them objections in sales. But the truth is, there's really one main thing that's keeping them up at night. And if you can get to that one main thing and help them solve that, all the other ancillary stuff usually will fix itself because it's that main thing that's causing the issue. So for me, it was a skill set of learning, hey, how do I ask the right questions? How do I listen for specific keywords or things that are being mentioned and then utilize those in the reframe of the next question to move the conversation to the point of, hey, we've developed a clear idea of what the issue is. Now it's our job to deliver the solution.
Okay. Now, would you say the different products that you've sold, have they been more transactional? Has it been, would you say that they've led to more of like a complex sale? Like what kind of realm would you say you've mostly fallen into for products?
Man, mostly I've been all over the place, right? So like I've sold a tangible, like actual physical item, right? We sold tobacco, cigars, we sold humidors, all the other stuff that goes with that. I've sold furniture, right? That's a tangible item.
Yep, you can
But
see it.
then yeah, I've also sold insurance, property and casualty, so home and auto insurance, life insurance. I've sold marketing packages, right? So I've sold an intangible thing like a promise. It's like, hey man, if you pay us every month, we promise that we'll give you this if X, Y, or Z happens. And I've sold consulting, I've sold software, right? So like I've really done a little bit of everything, tangible, intangible, investment opportunities. My thing is really just a matter of, we have a process that we teach in our coaching program. We call it the catch method. First
Yep.
thing we need to do is clarify why you're there. Hey man, what made you decide to reach out to us? Because our company really doesn't do any like paid advertising. A lot of what we focus on is organic, right? So we do attraction marketing. We put out a message so good that our goal is that people see it and they're like, I want to know more about what they got going on. So I know when a lead comes in, it's like, hey man, what made you decide to reach out? What made you decide to submit your information to learn more about X, Y, or Z product? Because that person made a decision, right? They submitted their information, name, phone, email, mother's maiden name, whatever, on a form somewhere. So
Hmm.
I know that they had an interest level. Now my job is really just to determine what that interest level is and what the problem was that they were seeking to fix.
Okay, so you're talking about pull marketing where people are coming in, they're like, all right, they hear Drewbie, they're hearing Drewbie on the podcast. What they're hearing on the podcast, or whether it's on video, YouTube, whatever you're communicating, that's connecting with whoever's watching, and then they're reaching out to you. So have you always been in this pull marketing space, or did it
Nope.
probably didn't start there, did it? I'm guessing it
No,
didn't
it
start
didn't
there.
start there. So I've done everything in sales, man. I used to sit and make hundreds of cold calls a day. We'd send letters, emails. Thankfully, I never had to door knock, but I've certainly gone to networking events and played that game, so I understand it. When it comes to, usually when you get started in sales, right, you don't have a pipeline. You don't have we always tell people, hey, go work your sphere of influence, right? Your circle of
Yep.
influence, like your
Yeah.
friends, your family, the people. That's always a great start, but it only goes so far. And so what we really work with people on is, yes, paid advertising is great and it can work, but we call that a force move, right? If you put enough force behind something, eventually it'll move or it'll budge.
Or push, right? You're pushing
Yeah,
people to your product or service. I mean, it's almost like a phone call, almost like you're forcing it on people.
exactly. So those things work, but they take a lot of energy, and there's not typically a huge conversion rate, right? Like if I call 1,000 people today that have no idea who I am, maybe I can pull 5 or 10 people out of that as a deal. But I mean, 1,000 conversations is a lot of work. If you've ever sat and had a lot of conversations in a day, you know that's probably not feasible, right? For one person to have that many conversations.
Correct. So it only makes sense to talk to people that they know who you are. They trust you because they gave you their information to you.
Exactly. That know, like, and trust factor. You nailed it, brother. And so that's really what I'm trying to work on, as a combination of, yes, we're doing some push marketing, right? We're getting out there and we're hitting the phones and we're having those conversations. But the goal is having a strong organic foundation, because some of those clients that we speak to today that don't really know us, if we have a strong organic foundation, once they hear about us, now we just have to stay in front of them, right? Or if they go and they look us up and they're like, well, this guy cold called me about selling my house, and I hadn't really thought of it, but now I'm interested, but I don't really know this guy. So let me go check him out on social media, right? Let me go do some social recon. Yes. And if you've got a good organic foundation, you've been putting out content, sharing your message, and you have reviews and other people's social proof, right? Then that know, like, and trust factor goes from like, hey, I didn't know this guy when he cold called me, to a week later, I've done my research on him online, and now I'm asking him to sell my house.
Correct. Have you heard of The Ultimate Sales Machine?
Chet Holmes. It's a great
Chet
book.
Holmes. That's exactly what you're talking about. You're talking about that pyramid at the beginning of the book, where there's only 3%. You call them up, they're ready to go. They know what they want. They know what they need. They're ready. But what you need to do, what all salespeople, the people that are listening to this, is you have a very big chunk of people that aren't ready yet. They'll never buy from you, but some people, they're going to buy from you, but they don't know they need what you have. So you got to be in front of them. That's where the attention is. That's where you're talking about it. Ryan Stewman's talking about it, like always being in front of your clients, your prospects. It's attention is really what it is. It's attention. So would you say right now, so it's a mix right now of what you do. You do push and pull marketing. Like you're getting in front of them. You're still letting them know what you're doing, but people are reaching out to you. Like, are you more heavily focused in one area than others right now, or like how?
Yeah, for us, I mean, we're real heavy in attraction marketing.
Okay.
Right? Like, so Facebook shut our ads account down a few years ago, and if anybody's ever had to deal with that, it's a real pain in the rear. So a lot of what we do is just focus on organic attraction marketing. Paid ads work. We do some of it for like some of our software stuff and some of our e-com businesses, right? Because it's a little different model. But right now, our main thing, especially for our coaching consulting, is just pure organic attraction marketing. But even that, like, even if people have that know, like, and trust factor, there's still a 3 to 6 month buying time frame for the majority of our people. That's why they say the FU money comes from follow-up, right? So like, if you're in sales and you want to learn how to get really not just rich, but like wealthy, you got to learn how to follow up with people. You got to build that system and that process, because if you have 100 people today that you talk to and you know that only 3 to 5 of them are ready to move forward, what's going to happen to those other 95 deals? The real players, the real professionals, they know that those 95 deals, that's where the money's made. The first couple are always easy. Like, even a blind squirrel can find a nut now and then. But like, when you build a real follow-up process and have a routine that you follow, that's when you really start making the big bucks.
Were you always good at follow-up?
Not always. I was blessed that I've really made follow-up kind of my main thought process in sales over time. When I worked in the insurance world, we had one of the trainers came in and was teaching us about follow-up. And so my first foray into follow-up, I love telling this story. When I started in insurance, the owner sat me down and he's like, all right, here's your computer to do your quotes on, right? Here's the website. Here's a telephone, not even like a Bluetooth, but like old school, pick it up and dial the numbers, a Polycom IP335. So shout out if you know what I'm talking about. That's the OG sales phone. But they sat me down and they gave me a printed out list of Excel names and phone numbers. I didn't even get like the Excel file on the computer. They just handed it to me printed out on a sheet. Oh, and nice. They're like, all right, bub, get after it. And I'm like, well, all right. So I like walk my ass down to the Dollar General and I got a couple of highlighters and a ruler, red, green, yellow. And I just start calling and I'd pick up the phone and I'd call. And if they answered and they told me to screw off, I'd scratch them out red. If they didn't answer, I'd write it in yellow. Or if it was somebody that either let me give them a quote or said, hey, call me back, little green check mark. I just ran through that list of 5,000 names, probably 100 different times trying to reach out to people, connect with them. Like they said, call back. Like, that was my initial like learning how to follow up, right? It was old school, like just put it on paper and figure it out. And then I got a CRM system, right? So I was like, all right, now I've got like a software, a tool that I can use. And within that tool, I was like, all right, well, if I get a new lead, I know for the first 30 days, they're going to get X number of touch points. They're going to get these texts, these emails, right? So I can template it. I built a process. If they don't buy in that time frame, they're going to go here and I'm going to do this, this, and this. And so I started building out what's called like a workflow.
Yep.
And then once I had the workflow, then I started automating it and being like, well, now I only have to actually pick up the phone and call the damn leads. I don't have to send the text or the emails. It's all built for me. So I just show up and I know I got 26 appointments on my calendar for the day. And I'm just, hey, I know you're interested because you set this appointment. Like, but that was really how my follow-up processes came to be. It was like, I didn't know what I was doing. I had a shitload of opportunity and no way to track it. So I was like, all right, well, I call it the Caveman Method, right? I know the result that I need. And this is the tools that I got, and I'm just going to be dumb enough to figure out how to make it happen here.
And what's interesting is you did start out just with that elementary thought process. And that's how I started out with my sales, was like I did door-to-door sales. So I literally had a piece of paper and I had roads drawn on a piece of paper with house numbers. And I would put like, I don't remember this is over 20 years ago, but I'd put an X next to houses that I saw a swing set behind. I'm like, well, they got to have kids because I sold education material. Like,
It
was definitely not how it is today. Now you have a CRM. Now you have so many different tools. I feel like some of the tools are so good that they're actually hindering salespeople and working on their skills. But what you did, it sounds like what you've done over time, Drewbie, is you were given a list. You made the phone calls, you created a system. And then as you built on that system, you made it better and better and better. And now you have a workflow set up, but then you're also known for closer memes, which is the follow-up game, I do believe. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, man. So, when it comes to sales, people buy from people, right? They don't buy from logos. They don't buy from corporations. They buy from people, and they buy from people that they know, like, and trust. And so as we talked about, part of sales is building that rapport, creating that relationship. And so for me, my personality is I'm kind of a silly guy. I like to joke around. Like I come from I grew up in the hood, but I was also a middle-class white kid at the same, so I've got some, interesting personality types that run through. And I've always loved memes. Like, I don't know if you got one of those groups of friends and it's just like a group chat and you just send each other the raunchiest, wildest, funniest shit, like everybody has that to some degree. And what I love about memes is that it really comes from a biological thing like Darwinism of it's a transfer of information. Mm-hmm. One animal sees another animal do a thing, and so it starts copying that thing to get the result, right? So that's really what a meme is. It's just a transfer of information or ideas. And so what I found with it over time is that, going back to 79 or whatever, when it was originally established to now, when we think of a meme, it's like, it's a picture from a movie or a television show with like a different contextual idea because they added some image or added some words over it. So what I realized is that I always loved using memes on social media. I shared a lot of memes. I thought they were funny. Like I shared them with I was working one day. I was a little frustrated because I had a whole bunch of people that had been like, yeah, man, I'm hot. I'm ready to go. Like, send me the link. I'll get signed up. And again, if you've been in sales, this happens a lot. These people are fired up and then we call it go and ghost, right? They disappear. Yeah. Like, what happened? I don't understand. And so I'm looking at this big list of people that have gone ghost on me. And I said, well, let's see if this works. And I went and I found a meme, and it was there's one of Jim Carrey from the movie Ace Ventura where he's like look in the dolphin tank and he's kind of like doing one of these and he's looking into the camera. Yep. And it just said, you there across the bottom, you there ? And so I just fired this meme off to like 20 or 30 people that had ghosted me. I was like, fuck it. Let's see what happens, right? Like, they didn't respond the first 7 times, so what's going to happen now? And then 5 minutes later, I get bing, 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 bing. I start getting these notifications. These people that haven't responded to me in weeks or months are suddenly hitting me back and going, oh shit, man, I'm so sorry. I totally forgot about this. Like, I got busy, excuse, whatever. But then I also had some people that just literally went in and paid the invoice and were like, oh man, my bad. I completely spaced this. Like, how do I take the next step? So people, hadn't responded to me in months. I send them this meme. Suddenly I've got 5 figures in sales comes through in in an hour, and 7 or 8 other people that are like, yeah, let me set up another call. Sorry about that. So I went, well, hold on a second here. Maybe it's a fluke, but I don't think so. So I hit up a couple of my homies and I'm like, hey, try this. Just hear me out. I know it sounds crazy, but like, see if it works. And they hit it up. Go for it. One guy hits me back. He's like, hey, man, I just got a response from a guy. I'm listing his it's like $1.3 million home on Friday because of the meme that I sent you. So, now I'm going, oh, shit, it works. It works. Mm-hmm. So I create this course. I start telling people about it, right? And now I've got well over 1,000 clients. I've done several $1 million in sales using them. My clients are, I don't want to hype up all kinds of marketer numbers, but like we've put some numbers on the board for sure. But it comes back to using the memes because it's different, right? It's not a typical canned follow-up response. It creates an emotional connection. And I think, again, if you're going to do business with people and somebody sends you a meme that makes you laugh, it creates like an internal feeling of like, oh, okay, this is a guy just like me. He likes memes. Like, you're the same. Me and you, we're guys. Like, now we can create that level of trust to do business together.
So thank you for sharing that with me. And you're totally right when it comes to something different, because you could call them, you can text them, and you can email them. Those are all, when I say text or email, you're really just using words. Hey, I'm getting back with you. Hey, yep. Here's my 13th guide that I can send you. You're still not getting back to me. So you're really giving them like a proverbial shake with that meme. But you're also saying, you're from there too? You're from there too? Because they're relating. Like whatever it is, the color, or like you're talking about the Jim Carrey. I'm thinking like Seinfeld. Like, there are thousands of memes, and you don't even need copy on them. Sometimes it's just the meme itself and then just put a word below it. Right. So this is when did you send that out? When was this created?
So I launched the Closer Memes program back in December of 2019, which is crazy to think about. It's been out that long. And sometimes I wonder if I was kind of a little bit ahead of the curve, right? Because sometimes it'd be like that. But what's cool, man, is that when you go through the course, what I really take it even a step further on the psychology side of the marketing, right? Because that's really all it is. It's just marketing. But we talk about how you can get very intentional with the images that you use, right? So if your target audience is females between 30 and 45 years old, Friends is probably a great place to pull memes from, because growing up, they probably watched Friends. And so if you send a picture from Friends, a meme from the Friends, and this person opens it and they see it and they're like, first of all, I love Friends. Who doesn't? That was a great show from my childhood, right? So boom, instant emotional connection.
Yes.
Then the curiosity of the human mind is going to look at it and go, well, what's different about this picture? Right? Like, if you've created a custom meme, maybe you put their name in it or whatever. Now the mind is like, well, I've seen this image before, but what's different about it? So again, you're trapping them in, you're drawing them deeper into the idea of what's going on, because there's that emotional connection, and everybody grew up playing, reading highlights. Maybe they didn't have that. Maybe some young kids that didn't have that, but hey, find the differences, right? The magazines that you played with at the doctor's or the dentist's office when you were a kid, that's all you need to know, right?
Exactly.
But there was always hey, what's the difference in these two pictures? And we would sit and do those forever. The human mind operates the same way as an adult. When you see something familiar, but it's slightly off, you're going to look at it and go, okay, well, what's different about that? So on a much deeper level, when you start understanding the imagery and the power of the meme itself and how a picture is worth 1,000 words, you can have an entire conversation with somebody through one meme. Man, it's some next level stuff right there, brother.
It is. It almost speeds up the rapport process.
That is the key, right? So time is the one resource we're all limited by. We can all go work and make more money, but time is the resource that we all get the same amount of. You can't buy more of it. You can't win it in a poker tournament. Nobody got a box of it for Christmas, right? So when you learn how to compress that time, that's how you exponentially increase your ability to earn. Does that make sense?
Totally. It's speeding up. thinking this through, even from like not even like a prospect's point of view, but a salesperson's point of view. What tends to happen is the longer that time happens from like them making a phone call to like actually making that call, the longer it takes, is it that fear builds. But then if a salesperson were to send something like this, I don't know. Do they feel less rejected if they don't respond? They're already not responding already to you. It's what you want is a response. Like the non-response is what you want to avoid. You want the response.
Exactly.
So in your introduction, you're talking about always living with excellence, surrounding yourself with others. Let's talk a little bit. I feel that most of the people that I talk to that are playing at another level tend to have things in their lives like habits or systems in place that feed that success process. What could you share with us in terms of maybe some habits or systems that you've put in place that have brought you success?
Yeah, man. So, kind of going back to that idea of time, right? I know that if time is my main limited resource, I've got to invest it extremely wisely. So I run a very, very tight calendar. Like you can look at my calendar and pretty much any time throughout the day, I know where I'm supposed to be and what I'm supposed to be doing. And I time block. So I'm up at 4 a.m. every day. By 4:30, I've read a couple pages in a book. I've done some gratitude exercises, right? I'm trying to start my day with positivity and motivation and education, right? Because that early time is for me to think and get prepped for the day. Then I do a 60 to 90-minute workout, come home, I get myself cleaned up. I have family family time every morning. Monday through Friday, I'm typically out the door by 8 a.m. so that I can get to the office. Between 8:30 and 11 a.m., I do specific admin-related tasks, right? So I put my headphones in and I do 2 hours of focus, follow-up, emails, text messages, content creation, right? Like whatever specific tasks that I can do without having anyone around me bother me, that's my morning time. I have lunch, maybe do a meditation. Then the afternoon I have built for sales calls. Right.
Okay.
So like one of the things that I do is I'm very, very tactical with my time. So every conversation that I have, a lot of sales guys are like, yo, if I don't answer the phone, they're going to go somewhere else and buy from somewhere else. And I'm like, yeah, maybe. But if that's the kind of client it is, like maybe I don't want to do business with that client, because if they can't respect my time now before they've even like started working together, like sure as shit going to go sideways once they've paid me money. So every time I have a conversation, I ask them, hey man, I'm glad you reach out. Would you prefer to chat here in messages, or would you rather set up a phone call? You want to have a phone call? Awesome, man. Here's a link to my calendar so that you can book a time that works best for you. Now, the secret is that calendar only lets them book times between 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock, Monday, Tuesday, and Friday on my calendar. So they don't know it. They just think I'm busy as shit, but I'm very specific on when I take sales calls, because when I get on the phone at 1 o'clock, and I know every 30 minutes for the next 6 hours I've got sales calls, I'm already in that mindset. It's not a matter of like taking a sales call, then dealing with a pissed off client who's bitching and complaining about something that's going to bring my confidence down or bringing my energy down, right? And then hopping on to another sales call and going from an upset client who's not happy with something to, hey man, I'm going to need you to give me anywhere from $30,000 to $50,000, but my confidence is down because I just had a conversation with somebody that's not happy, or they're pissed off about something that really is kind of stupid, but clients get mad about silly stuff sometimes, but I'm still on this phone call trying to sell. Like, I don't want to have that back and forth mindset. I want to know that I'm going in with a very specific mindset of, hey, I'm on here to help people, to solve problems. And if it makes sense, we're going to move the deal forward into the next stages. By 4:00, I'm shutting my day down at the office. I'm cleaning out, making sure everything's done. And then I'm going home because I want to be home for the afternoon, right? Like my mom, my wife and my kid, like my family is important to me. That's like why I do what I do. And so many people misconstrue the idea of like, well, I'm grinding all day to create this future for my family. But the problem is that you're living in this future, but your family's living in the now. And so if you're always thinking about the future, but your family's thinking about right now, what's going to happen? There's going to be a gap. And I can tell you from personal experience, having built that gap or created that gap, I almost lost my family because of it. So like, oh, I'm married to the money. I'm married to the grind. Yeah, it's a real lonely grind when you lose the things that you said that you started doing it for to begin with. That's why I had to get more intentional with my time. And the real secret to this, and what I really hope someone understands and takes away from this conversation right now, is that so many people have this mindset of, oh, if I have to live by the calendar, I'll never have time to do the things I want to do. But it's the complete opposite. When you live by the calendar, you now have the opportunity to put those things in place that you want to do. The secret is that you just got to make sure that the stuff you're doing around it is putting you in a position to where doing that thing that you want to do isn't going to make you financially unstable or make you miss out on something important, right? Like, there is freedom in having discipline on your calendar. So let me say that there's freedom in having the discipline with your calendar. So when you learn how to live and die by the calendar and make that your ultimate boss, I know that these are my non-negotiables, right? This is the stuff I got to get done every single day. So they're going on there, shower, eat, family time, whatever, right? Like personal education, meditation, working out, whatever the thing is, you know, is a non-negotiable. You put that on there first. Then you put on the things that it's like, well, I know I need to do this, right? This is a need. This is something that has to get done. It's not necessarily non-negotiable, but it's going to need to get done. And then you add the, hey, these are the things I want to do. And that need to do and want to do will kind of switch because you don't want to burn yourself out and never do the things you want to do. But again, if all you do is what you want to do, maybe you're not going to make enough money to pay your rent, right? So like, you got to be very strategic about this time, but understand that that's where the freedom comes from. If I put it on the calendar, that's what I'm going to go do. I just know that there's other times that I'm going to have to do some different things because it's giving me the opportunity to do the things I want to do. You following that path? I know I kind of bounced around a little bit.
No, this is really, really good. And anyone that's listening to this, I hope they're taking notes. And if you haven't, pause the broadcast, pause the podcast, get a notebook, go back 3 minutes. Drewbie just shared solid gold with you, talking about discipline equals freedom. And it's not even just a time blocking thing. I think it's everything. Health. If I'm not disciplined and I'm eating McDonald's every single day for the next 365 days, I've lost my freedom to eat whatever I want. Because eventually the doctor is going to say, you can't eat this anymore because you were undisciplined. And that's health. You know, you're talking calendar, business, right? You know, the things that you are very intentional on and the things that you respect the most, you'll have the most freedom in that area. If you're disciplined in time with your family and something comes up like, hey, I got to fly out for a conference this weekend. You've made those deposits. If you've made those deposits, you can take a withdrawal because you've made the deposits. You were disciplined. Now you have the freedom to take care of things. If you gotta leave for 2 or 3 days for a conference, you can do that and not have to feel guilty.
Yeah, 100%, man. And it really comes back to, again, it's that intentionality and in the focus. Because I know, hey, man, if I sit down and I'm focused for 3 to 4 hours, I'm going to do more in that 3 to 4 hours than most people will do in their entire work week. Because most people show up with no plan. They get to the office they start at 9:00, so they're in there at 8:59. They get their coffee, they take a shit, they're chit-chatting at the water cooler. They sit down at 9:30. They answer a couple of emails. They get distracted by social media. Then they're on YouTube for an hour, and then they're like, "Oh, I gotta make these calls, right?" And they make 4 or 5 calls, and then they're like, squirrel brain takes them and do some other stuff, and then maybe they send a couple more emails, and then, oh man, it's 4:30. I'm just gonna shoot the shit until 5 when I can go home. All right. But if I went and sat down and for 2 hours of that day, I did all the shit that I knew I needed to do, and I was 100% dialed in and focused, I got 4 hours left of my day, 5 hours left of my day to go do whatever it is I want. But you're still stuck in the office because you can't get disciplined and you can't be focused. And I don't mean that like to hurt anybody's feelings, but that's the truth, right? There's a reason that the people who are so successful subscribe to the idea that their time is valuable, right? Like, how many people listening to this can ask themselves and say, hey, I make X number of dollars per hour? Because when you really ask yourself that question, it's pretty sad. And the story that I can tell you here, and I talk about this in my book, is that when I first got into entrepreneurship and personal development, I had a woman that I was using a software program. She saw my name get tagged in a Facebook group. She reached out. She's like, hey, man, I see you're using this thing and having some luck. I'm struggling. How much for an hour of your time to get on a call and help me with this? It's a pretty standard question, right? Except that when I started doing the math and looking at like, I'm working 50, 60 hours a week and I'm doing this and I'm making $25 an hour. That's what my personal worth is, $25 an hour. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, that's pretty sad to think about. Like, that's all I'm worth is $25 for an hour. No, that ain't going to work for me. Right. And so I tell Nancy, and like the conversation goes like this. I'm thinking I'm making 25. So it's after hours, like double time, right? We get time and a half, 2 hours when we're working overtime. So I was like, hey, give me $50 for an hour. Let's call it a day. She's like, that's way too cheap. I'll give you 75. All right. Yeah. Hell yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So I get on a call, I have a conversation. I'm able to help her like with a lot of value, get her what she needs, sends me a Venmo for $75. I immediately called my wife and went, babe, I'm in the wrong business. I don't know how, but I'm going to figure out how to do this like 3 or 4 times a day. I'll work less and make 3 times as much money. And ever since then, I've had that question of, hey, if I'm going to spend an hour doing something, what's that time worth? What's the return on that time? What skill set do I have that I bring to that hour that increases my value? And now think about it like this. If you only had 24 hours left to live, right? You know, you only got 24 hours before you're kaput. And someone wants to buy one of those hours from you. How much are you going to charge? Because you don't know how long you're going to live. You don't know if you're going to wake up tomorrow, right? Someone wants to take one of your last 24 hours. How much is that worth to you? Everybody has a price, right? Like, let's just be honest. Everybody's got a price, but you got to get clarity on what that price really should be, not what everyone tells you it should be.
Correct. So there's really 2 aspects is what I'm hearing you're saying. Number one, especially for the salespeople that are on this, chances are you're either making salary that's probably doesn't going to fluctuate a whole lot year over year, or you got a base salary with commissions, or you're 100% commission. So you know where you're at. If I asked anyone that's listening to this, you know how much you're making each year. If it's $100,000, that's $50 an hour. There's 2,000 hours in a year. However, taking it to the next step, if you own that company and we're providing value in that industry, would you pay yourself that same amount or would you pay yourself more? Because at the point when you had that question, you were making a certain amount of money when you got that phone call. And then you realized, hey, I got knowledge that someone needs. Why am I getting paid wholesale when I should be charging retail? And your worthiness, what doesn't go up or go down, the belief that you had for your worthiness went up as soon as they said, no, I'm stealing from you. If I only pay you $25 an hour, like, no, I will pay you this much, which probably gave you, I don't know, was that like a little bit of a realization, like, holy cow, like I can really help people and I can get paid for it?
I think it was more than anything, it was the permission to go and ask, right? Like, I think so many, like growing up, we're always told like, hey, don't ask for that. Stop asking for things. Stop asking, right? Like, you never make a sale you don't ask for. And I think what a lot of entrepreneurs and just people in general, right? It doesn't have to be salespeople, but like people want permission to go and be the greatest version of themselves because their whole life they've been told they're not worthy. They've been told they're not good enough. And it's probably people they love that are saying those things, family members, friends, like, oh man, I don't know if you should do that. That might not be a good idea. because they're scared, right? They know internally the person saying those things is like, I couldn't do that. I couldn't get that result. So they're just projecting that onto you, and you're living your whole life with this idea that like you need permission to go and be great. You need permission to go and ask for more. And that's not the case. Like, you were blessed with that when you were born, is that freedom to have the life that you want to live. It's a mindset thing around shifting that perspective. And I think a lot of people, like, this is what I tell people when they call me and they're asking my advice. And like, truthfully, what you're telling me is great. You got my permission to go and do it. And they're like, oh, okay, I'm going to go do the thing then. And usually it works out because they're just in their own head. They've kind of like put this roadblock up that they don't have the permission, or they have this imposter syndrome or whatever it is. And, you know, it's funny, like when you just start asking for more, either people pay it or they don't. And that kind of solves your problem. It's like, hey man, I want to get on a call with you. Cool. It's $2,500 for an hour. Well, I don't have $2,500. Okay. Not a problem. I understand. But like, that's what my time is worth. Mm-hmm. Here's some more free stuff, some value, some things that I can give you that I've already created. Like, I still want to try and help you, but if you need an hour of my time, that's what it costs. If they don't pay it, okay, no problem. If they pay it, great. Like, let's move forward. And one of the things, like, I listen to a lot of motivational stuff in the morning at Eric Thomas and Ed Milet and all these guys, right? And so yep. Eric Thomas has a skit where he talks about, hey man, I was charging 10 grand for a speaking engagement, and Bob Proctor told me I was crazy to go ask for 20. So he says, I saw him 6 months later and told him, hey, the 20 is going great. Everybody's paying it. And he's like, that's a problem. Ask for more. Ask them for 100, because if they're willing to just pay that to you without any question, you're probably worth more than you're asking. Yes. So you've got to be able to find that limit and continuously personally growing and educating yourself, improving your skill set, because as you continue to personally develop and grow, the value of your skill sets and your time increases. So it's just something to think about. Like, you got to keep pushing your limits.
This is so good, Drewbie. Thank you. This is absolutely gold. Anyone that's listening to this, I hope I hope you're getting the value here, because there is so much gold that you're sharing.
I appreciate that.
As you're increasing your value, you're bringing more value to the marketplace. So the last thing that I want to talk a little bit about is surrounding yourself with others. Association is really what I call it. And I feel there's really three things on the Language of Excellence podcast. Number one, reading good books. Number two, listening to the right information, right? Consumption, right? You're really consuming both. And then the third thing is the association, getting around the right people. I got 3 daughters. I know who they're hanging out with, because that's important as a parent, but it should be just as important when we're adults, because if we're getting around people that are bringing us down, tearing us down, and just being sarcastic and negative and all those negative things, that's not going to raise anyone up. So tell me, Drewbie, what have you done? What are you currently doing to surround yourself with those that are living the language of excellence?
Yeah, man. So, I'll go back to when I was selling insurance, right? Like, cause that kind of parlays into how I got to where I'm at now. When I was selling insurance, I got to being the top guy in my market, right? I was number 2, number 1 producer pretty much every month in my area. And I was like, okay, but like where I'm at in life, this ain't it. So what's next? And so it was like, all right, well, I'm a sales guy. What do I need to make more money? I need more leads, right? Like, let me go online and learn some marketing. And so I went to this company and said, hey, I want to learn what you guys are doing. I know you have this program, like $1,500. That's like fucking 3 months worth of mortgage payments, but I got to do something, right? Like, I don't want to stay stuck. And they said, hey man, we'd love to have you, but there's already another agent in your market, so we can't let you in. All right, guys, I'm going to figure this out. Don't you worry. So I went into another group. That's where I found Stewman. I bought the software. I started connecting with people and learning what they were doing. And what I really learned here was the power of the network and the people that you associate with. So my mentality going in was, hey, I'm going to figure this out. And along the way, whatever I learn, I'm going to share with the people around me, because at some point, one of two things is going to happen. One, I'm going to keep learning and getting better, and I'm going to learn how to do this shit. Or two, someone will see that, they'll reach out to me and they'll say, hey man, you're doing it all wrong. Try it like this. Secretly, that was what I was hoping for, right? I'm like, somebody just give me the shortcut. Cause like, I don't fucking know how to do any of this stuff. I'm going to figure it out, but like, it would be sweet if I could get there faster, right? How do I compress time? So Ryan reaches out to me one day and he's like, hey man, I see you're real active in the group. Like, I'd like to give you an opportunity to be a part of my team, and I'll give you a couple bucks a month and you just keep doing what you're doing. And so that was a no-brainer. But it came from me initially having the thought of, I'm going to step into this community and I'm going to give whatever knowledge that I can in hopes that it will attract the kind of people who can help me solve my problem. Right. And so Ryan's like, hey man, I got this going on. Like, check it out. I learned about this Apex network that I'm a part of now, our coaching and mastermind program, and build a few relationships, get into the community. I get this opportunity. It's like, hey man, it's $2,500 a year to be a part of our program. And at the time I'm like, I didn't have $1,500 to join a thing. And now I got to come up with $3,000. Like, holy shit. She's like, I don't know. So I went online, I got myself a credit card from my business LLC and said, let's see what happens. I spent $3,000, jumped in the program. And within 2 weeks, I had created a relationship and a connection that led to a $50,000 a year contract for consulting and marketing purposes. A week and a half after that, created another conversation, $2,000 a month retainer to do some marketing stuff. So my $2,500 investment, by getting in the room, building relationships and focusing on, hey, what value can I bring to this conversation up front? Not like, hey man, can you help me with some shit? But like, hey man, it's nice to meet you. I don't know how I can help you, but if there's anything I can do, like, let's have a conversation and point it in the right direction, led me to making $75,000 a year. $2,500 investment, get in the room, have conversations with the right people, $75,000, a year worth of contracts in the first month. From there, it just springboarded, right? Every conversation I go into, every person that I meet, I'm thinking, hey, how can I serve this person at the highest level? How can I make their needs my needs in such a way that allows me to provide value? Because every relationship that you jump into and you're value first, the law of reciprocity says that person's going to try to return the value tenfold, because you don't ever want to be outdone, right? That's, again, humans are winners. We kind of operate with this mentality of like, I'm not going to let them outdo me. Oh, you bought me one flower, I'm going to show up with 5 flowers. I'm going to bring a dozen roses. Check me out, right? Like, so how do you think that works in business? It's the same way. You show up in a conversation. It's like, hey man, I don't have a whole lot to offer you, but I'd love to have you on my podcast and, help promote you and put you in front of, a bigger audience that maybe doesn't know who you are. Well, that to me is value, right? That's a valuable thing for me. That's promotion. That's an opportunity for me to live my purpose, which is to elevate individuals to the top of their game, right? Inspiring someone to be better. So to me, if one person hears this conversation and they live a better life because of it, then this time investment was worth it to me. And again, with my attraction marketing method, it's an idea of, if I just show up in a room and I surround myself with good people and I focus on being a good person, right? People will find me. They'll come to me. They'll ask me questions. That's the beauty of building a good network and surrounding yourself with the right people, is they'll help you understand how not to make those mistakes, right? They've been down that path. If you're doing it correctly, you're seeking out people who are living the kind of life that you want to live, and you're learning from them. You're asking questions, and you're earning that right by showing up and being able to provide value in whatever way they need. Not everybody's asking for money. Some people, it's just like, hey man, I read your book. I really appreciate that you talked about this. It made a big difference. Just sending that kind word of encouragement, that's a value deposit. Hey man, I saw you posted about this place you were wanting to go. We went there a couple of years ago. Here's a couple of insider tips when you get there. Like, it doesn't have to be a monetary exchange for there to be a value exchange.
Right.
So thinking about that, when you're getting around those individuals, when you're finding them or seeking them out, start thinking about, hey, how can I serve them? How can I provide value to them that I'm not already getting? Because if you provide enough value, they're going to have nothing but this need, this internal desire to return that favor. Is that tracking?
It's a law. It's a law. If you give, and be careful with your intentions, don't do it to get back.
Sure.
Do it for the right reasons. Do it for the right intentionality. I mean, if you have an opportunity to serve someone, you have information that can help move them forward, Why would you not give that to them? What you're talking about is the abundance mentality. It's like, it's not the pie is limited. The pie is growing every single day. Do you want some of it or not? And we all, you and I and everyone that we're associated with, has that opportunity to make that pie bigger. Unfortunately, there are some people that think the pie is limited, and like they're going to hold on to their secrets, where really they're shooting themselves in both of their feet, because they're closing themselves off to new information that can change their lives as well as the people closest to them. So you're talking about the opposite way.
Yep. And the real secret is there's no secrets, man. Like, everything that's been done has been done before and will be done again. Like, that's just the way it is. There's a great book by Austin Kleon called Steal Like an Artist. And the whole premise of the book is like, you can go in and you can do all the same thing as all these other, big names, right? Like, I could do the same thing as Ryan Stewman. I could do the same thing as Ed Milet. But the truth is, I'll never be able to reach their level because I'm always chasing where they're at now, and they're always thinking about where they're going. However, if I look at, hey, I like Ryan Stewman and I like Ed Milet, and hey, Nick, you're pretty cool. I kind of like your style. I'm going to follow you, right? And I take the best of each version and I make it my own. Now, suddenly I have the opportunity to level myself up to their standard or higher, because I haven't pigeonholed myself by saying, hey, I'm only going to do it like this. I'm only going to do what they do, because there's nothing like proprietary. It's all been done. So why wouldn't you want to go and learn from the people that have been there and done that, and just focus on being the best version of yourself? Because ultimately in life, success is perspective. What you see as success is different than what I see, is different what the next person sees. The secret is to know that I'm going to create my success, and I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that you get to create your version of success. Because if I do that correctly, then everybody's going to win.
And by you showing up every day, that opens the door for others to show up every day.
Bingo.
And if you don't, then it's really closing the door to opportunity to others. So where do we go from here? Live the best, be the best person, be the best version of yourself every single day, not just for yourself, but those that are watching. And there are people watching, even if you don't own a business or you don't have influence over somebody, they are watching. They're always watching, and they're listening. I just got a text message 2 days ago from an episode I did a couple weeks ago. Hey, I listened to that episode. I'm going to pick 12 books, and I'm going to focus on these 12 books, and I'm going to master these books. Awesome. I'm glad I showed up that day. I'm glad he listened, because guess what? He's going to start moving forward in his business, which is awesome. These are things that you're all talking about. So this has been great, Drewbie. Thank you so much for sharing all this information. If people want to find you and look you up, what is the best way? I know obviously you're in social, but where do you spend most of your time? What's a good way for people to reach out to you, Drewbie?
Yeah. So if you go to connectwithdrewbie.com, it's a little website. It's got all the link to all my different socials. Primarily, I'm on Facebook. I have a YouTube channel, Instagram, right? Facebook is my main gig. So if you find me on there, that's where you're going to see the most content. I have my podcast, my book, Crushing the Day podcast, Crushing the Day book on Amazon. Definitely would encourage people to pick that up and kind of learn more about my story. Because I'm not some special dude. I've come from hardship. I've gone through hard times. I've been fat. I've been skinny. I've been rich. I've been poor. I've got the story, man. So I just want other people to understand that wherever they're at in their journey, there's still greatness inside of them that needs to be brought out. And that's really what my goal is, to help people bring that greatness out, live their best life, and, speak the language of excellence, brother. That's what it's all about, right?
Exactly. So if you're looking to reach out to Drewbie and you didn't quite get that website, his information,
connectwithdrewbie.com. Yep.
Connectwithdrewbie.com. His links, I'm gonna put some links in the show notes here, so you can just go ahead and click, and it'll take you right to him. Make sure that you reach out to him. Make sure that you follow Drewbie. He's got great value. You can see he surrounds himself with other people that are looking to strive to be excellent, and that's what we all should be doing. Looking for ourselves. How can we level up? And that's getting around other people that have attained something we've not attained yet in our lives. That's what you do. You get around others that have already done. So thank you so much, Drewbie, for being on the show here today. If you're listening to this or you're watching this and you found some value, feel free, go ahead and share with your family and friends. that one share could impact one person's lives. So if you thought about sharing it, don't think twice. Share it. Get it out to someone else. And that's really how we grow this podcast. Have a great day, and we'll see you next week.